I expected that The Only One would have a bittersweet ending. All the signs pointed to the fact that it wasn't going to end on the happiest of notes. There was a lot of foreshadowing, and a lot of anvils hitting you on the head of metaphors that this wasn't going to have the sweetest of endings. But damn, I did not expect the bittersweet ending to be just bitter. I hated that ending for this show with every fiber of my being. I just need to talk about my feelings. And how this little BL kind of changed the trajectory of this year for me, how much I adore it, and how much I can't stand that god-awful ending. Hi, I'm Monique. I am the host of Off by Purple Art podcast, where I talk to you about K-dramas, C-dramas, BTS, and so much more. And I guess that so much more is, in fact, BLs. I have been talking a little bit more about my love of BLs as of late on this podcast and some of my favorites this year. But I felt like this year has been pretty weak. But then this little show called The Only One came around and it completely stole my heart. Episodes 11 and 12 have finished airing, and obviously this podcast is going to be going into some spoilers. So if you want to commemorate with me because you are also a lover of The Only One and you absolutely despise that ending, then this is probably for you. If not, I highly encourage you to check this series out. I believe it's airing on Netflix, WeTV, the app, IQE, the app. I believe it is airing on Gaga Ulala as well, the app. It's airing on a lot of legal streaming platforms, so if you have the access and ability and the resources to do so, please watch it so we can get a season 2, so we can resolve the massive cliffhanger that this goddamn show left us on. I had to talk about 11 episode first. I absolutely love that the opening shots that we got was them cuddling. I think about the earlier episodes when Wang was talking specifically about his mom and the love that they shared and that she used to cuddle him in bed. And this was like one of the first instances of him being a little bit vulnerable to Tien, and Tien just kind of gravely listening. And I remember thinking earlier on, I wonder if they're going to give us at least one cuddle scene, because I never really truly expected them to have like a full-on makeout session or like an overtly explicit NC scene. I mean, the time period in this show is like around 2010 to 2012, and they're technically in the show 17-year-olds, so they're teenagers, so it would be actually kind of uncomfortable for them to do any hot and heavy stuff. But I was hoping to get like just at least one beautiful cuddle between the two of them and to kind of cross that boundary of physical touch, and episode 11 brought that for me. The opening shot of Wang lying on Tien's chest and him just looking completely, utterly at home and at peace was everything for me. I think it was just absolutely adorable, and to me, that episode will be my favorite just because of that opening shot and sequence and kind of the morning after awkwardness. It's so amazing just how good Eric and Benjamin are. They have these little micro expressions between the two of them, and they can express so much dialogue through just facial expressions, and I admire actors that can do that. I also have to credit the cast and crew, obviously, the surrounding supporting characters, definitely the crew as well, the director, and you know, there are certain blocking of shots and certain music choices that heighten the emotion of every scene, but the two actors, the main leads, really did their job in just highlighting just how hyper aware of they are of each other and each other's bodies. And even the sequence shortly afterwards in episode 11 when, you know, they got their test results, and of course Tien and Wang, being the super geniuses that they are, they're like leading across the board in class A. And you see Wang take out the wallet that contains the little card pass that Tien had gave him earlier in the show, and he's kind of using it as his lucky charm now, like kind of an anchor point along with like the friendship bracelet. And you see him kind of kiss his hand and hold in his hand and kind of just bask in his joy. And you see Tien always being like the most observant watching this. and kind of making a mental note and filing that in his head, only for like the following scene that Wang lost it in the gymnasium after they were playing with the other students for sports, and him kind of looking concerned, and Tien wanting to do absolutely everything to make Wang happy, and noticing like the microsecond that something is off with Wang, searching high and low for the gym well after everyone had left just for his wallet. Should have been like a heads up to me that, yeah, they're gonna crush us in episode 12. Like I felt it, but I didn't expect to feel how crushed I felt after all the events that unveiled itself. But like the sweet moments like that, the kind of the confession between the teachers that Wang subsequently end up eavesdropping on accidentally, and that kind of finalizing the feelings in his head and crystallizing everything in like 4K, where he finally understands, oh my God, I'm actually in love with him. It wasn't just that they created this incredible deep bond and that they both were searching for that missing puzzle piece. They both felt this like loneliness so much, and to find that level of solace with one another, but to also realize the deeper feelings aren't just that emotional and spiritual connection, but there actually is love brewing there. And for that to finally crystallize in Wang's head with the almost kiss, like to me, I almost would have been happier with episode 11 being the final episode, but because I wanted more, of course I had to watch episode 12. And then episode 12 completely shattered me. I think it's a horrible ending. I'm of two minds with this show, I'll be honest. I still think of it as my favorite this year. I still really love Unknown, which I've talked about many times on the podcast, but the only one really has a special place because for a show that has a very simple premise, for a show that not a lot happened narratively, so much happened at the same time, so much emotions were expressed. And the actors, as I said, Eric and Benjamin are brilliant. And Benjamin especially, the acting was just on a next level. The scream that he made. Anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. PSA, as by the way, sidebar. I actually went and got the book. I was so deeply unsatisfied with episode 12. I went and found a way to support the author, the original author of the story, and was able to find English translations through someone that has kindly taken their time to translate these books. So I'm going to finally read it and get my happy ending. Anyway, back to my point. Episode 12 utterly, completely obliterated me. And I'm of two minds. On one hand, it wouldn't have made sense for the show to end on a happy note. There was far too much foreshadowing. Like, not subtle foreshadowing at all, that things were not going to end well for season 1 of this show. With the whole story of the princess and her husband and them having to be forcibly separated that Tien was talking about in episode 11, and them having to share this broken shard of mirror to see the reflection of each other, to be kind of reminded of one another. All the references to the moon and the connection between Wang's mom and him through the moon, and him and Tien having these really special moments under the moon, under the stars, because there's a really celestial, dreamy-like theme that runs through this show as well. Because everything is destined for them. They're destined to be together. Everything was foretelling that things were going to end badly. Even like the flashbacks we got that gave us a little bit more insight to Wang's character. But holy crow. I knew it had to end on a bad note, and it wouldn't make sense, and it would feel inauthentic to have the characters have a super happy note. And I even think it's a little early for them to be actually being physically intimate, like actually sharing a passionate kiss. But I understand why the fans wanted some form of confession, and I guess I was really hoping for something too, even with the realization that they can't act on it, at least not right now. But it totally makes sense narratively in the show why. Like, they presented us all the reasons why, and they have been very carefully crafting the fact that these two very slowly came out of their shells to come towards one another. And even with Tian telling Wang a few episodes back, once they got the friendship bracelets and their trajectory of the relationship really changed, he had made a point of saying, hey, because I'm now choosing to live in the dorm with you, don't ever regret it. You say you don't want to live with any regrets and you just want to throw discretion to the wind and live and bask in your youth. Don't regret this, because I'm going full in. I'm putting my heart on my sleeve. We're doing this. We're going to be close. And Wang was like, I will never regret this. And I was like, oof, oof, that's not going to age well. And it really didn't. The fact that what happened in episode 12 was simply that Wang flunked his mock exam, even though he's still on path with all his previous test scoring to still have entry to university of his choice, and he's still academically brilliant. The fact that the mock test was such a blow to him that he had to move down and was demoted essentially from class A to class B, and that kind of separates him and puts him at a level technically above Tian again, kind of mirroring the first episode where you see Wang from the balcony and he's looking down at Tian and Tian is looking at him, and you can feel like the earth kind of shifting and kind of hearkening back to that in episode 12. For something as simple as them just having to move classes, but we as the audience and the characters themselves knowing the gravity of the decision that Wang made. And it wasn't just because of the fear of the feelings that he knew that he was growing for his brother that he couldn't control, his stepbrother. You know, the fantasies were funny. The shower sequences were super funny and what have you. But the little inner turmoil that Wang was going through. And it wasn't just about like the sexual awakening, coming to terms with attraction to the same sex. And then in the time period, it's still 2010, I believe, in the context of the show. And, you know, having found this newfound family and knowing just how much Tian has the propensity to run away and isolate himself, and how fragile his emotional state is, and not wanting to completely obliterate that, he made this, I guess, selfless sacrifice to stomp these feelings down and to start to put separation between them. But Tian simultaneously knowing this and being able to read Wang like a book and be able to pick up on this shift of emotions like in a blink of an eye, because he's so incredibly observant. And for all that to crashing down, like them going to Old Hang's little pop shop there, and that scene on the couch, the amount of emotions that the two actors are able to bring, like the level of acting, the level of heartbreak, and absolutely narratively everything makes sense, and at the same time it doesn't still make sense. And then to see Tian afterwards literally walk away from the situation, head back, and just completely be shattered and broken. And then him taking Wang's books and escorting him to Class B. And then that final nail in the coffin with Wang referring to him as G, or brother, but as a way of distinction. Like, we've seen him call him big brother multiple times in the show, mockingly, teasingly, sometimes even flirtatiously, when he got him to convince him to wear like the school jersey for the whole outdoor activities. But that was the final nail in the coffin to say, no, I am drawing the line. I am going to protect both of us. I'm going to protect our family, even though this isn't what we truly want. And it's so heartbreakingly sad. And then to see that scream come out of Tian, this really insular, really quiet, stoic character letting out that guttural scream, that gut punch of a scream, It's crazy. Wicked acting. But I can't say I completely enjoyed it because I was just so heartbroken. And if I knew that there was a guarantee of a season 2, I would have been able to take it on the chin. But because season 2 is up in the air for this show, it really is disappointing. It really is. So we have the international fan support. Obviously, I've been loud about this show. If you've been on Twitter at all and you're in like the BL spaces, there's been a lot of fans that have been loud about the show. I believe the actors and the director and the writers are getting the feedback, but I don't know the reception in Taiwan or in mainland China, to be honest. And there's a lot of issues as far as BL content in mainland China, if you're aware. And knowing that one of the actors is extremely famous in mainland China. And it's so interesting because I've seen Eric in a lot of shows. I just couldn't really hyper focus on him until this show because I loved him so much. Now it's like, now I see his face everywhere. And I'm currently watching Only for Love with like Dylan Wang and Beilu. And of course, Eric is in that show too, right? He's from mainland China, and it's controversial as it is for him to be in this project. And the fact that both Benjamin and Eric have now new projects that they've been cast in, the fact that they had to do so much just to get the first season off the ground, the fact that there's, I guess, OG fans of the source material novel that aren't happy with how the book was translated into live action. I'm talking fans from, of course, China and Taiwan. It's up in the air. Like, even with all the great reception, the fact that it's been talked about so much, it's not a done deal. Season 2 may be written, but the money and the funding isn't there yet because it's considered a big risk to do it. So it really leaves me unsatisfied. And in BL land, I am so used to having to wait for years for projects. And you know, you're in the thick of it right now. Like, I am so in love with the show right now. I would be cool with knowing that there would be season 2 in 2025. But best case scenario, with everything that I'm learning secondhand, the very earliest, and this is like best case scenario, would be late 2025. Best case scenario, which is highly improbable. Maybe 2026, but maybe not at all, which is like the worst case scenario. And then if it was to get the traction, would it have the same passionate fan base that it garnered from the first season and be able to ride off the wave of, you know, critical acclaim, at least from the international side of things? So it leaves a lot of things up in the air. Overall, I really love the show. It is my favorite of this year. I adore the hell out of the show. Were there some plot points that I could have done without? Yeah. The teachers, I think there was too much focus on them. I know the teacher's love story was kind of paralleling that of Tien and Wang's, but it just took too much time. Even though these were like 48 to 50 minute episodes, I love these characters so much. I wanted all the focus to be on the main leads. Not sorry, right? There was a lot of things that irked me, like that one competitive student that's super jealous that stayed fucking with Wang, and him having very little consequences for his actions. The fact that a teacher was assaulted, was tied up, and had a bunch of men that were adults, strangers, coming onto school premises and tying her up to a chair, and no cops were called and no other legal action was taken, and the perpetrators were able to get off after a little ass kicking from the male teachers. You know, the thing of having a bunch of high school students have a bet with their principal and the students losing said bet and stripping down naked. I had to suspend my belief a lot because I was like, you know how offensive this is? Like, all these teachers would be going to jail. You know, the amount of parents that would be calling up like, what the hell you have my kid doing out here? What do you mean you got my teenage kid stripping down and running across the field? Huh? You know, so there's like little things like that. But, you know, I'm able to suspend my belief. But overall, the show was amazing. Cinematography, gorgeous. Music choices, brilliant. Acting, top tier. Love story, immaculate into episode 12. That's my thoughts. Do you have any similar thoughts? Were you as enamored with The Only One as I am? I've heard a couple of folks say it's boring, but I can't understand how you think that. It is such a character-driven story. It's such a beautiful, delicate story about love. And it was just so well acted. maybe I could give you episode 1, even though I was completely enthralled from the get-go. But I know I'm not everyone. But I don't understand any criticism of the show at large. It was an amazing show. I love it so much. Let me know your comments below if you have made it all the way to the end of this podcast. If you're watching this via YouTube, please let me know. I love talking about this show. Have you read the book? Are you going to read the book? Are you going to find ways to get it? If you're listening via Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I love you. I appreciate you so much as well. Man, if I've convinced you at all, please give the show a chance. If you have the legal means of doing so, please watch it. I need a season 2. I need it, damn it. I do. Bye.